कुंज बिहारी
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी
जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी
जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी
जय यशोदनन्दना जय प्रजनरञ्जना
जय यशोदनन्दना जय प्रजनरञ्जना
जय यमुनतीरवनचारी जय कुञ्ज बिहारी
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 जय राधा माधव 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 जय कुञ्ज बिहारी
जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की
जय
जय श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय श्रीला गुरुदेव की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
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 So today we read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 12th chapter, and the verse is verse number 7. 6, 12, 7. I'll chant the verse, and maybe you can follow it. Yuyutsatam kutrachit atatayina Yuyutsatam kutrachit atatayina Jaya sadaikatra Navai paratmana Vinaikamutpatti Layastitishwaram Sarvajñam Adyam Purusham Sanatanam Yutsatam Putrachit Atatayina Jaya Sadaikatra Navai Paratmana Vinaikamutpatti
Naika Utpatti
Layasthitiswaram
Nayasthitishwaram
Sarvajnamadhyam
Sarvaramadhyam
Purusham Sanatanam
Purusham Saranam
Yuyutsatam
Yuyutsatam
Putrachet Atatayina
Putrachetatataina
Jaya Sadaikatra
Jaya Sadaikatra
Navai Paratmana
Navai Paratma
Vinaikamutpatti
Naikambati
Layasthitiswaram
Nayasthitishwaram
Sarvajnamadhyam
Sarvajnamadhyam
Purusham Sanatanam Yuyutsatam
Yuyutsatam
of those who are belligerent. Putrachit
Putrachit
sometimes. Atatayinam armed with weapons. Jayaha victory. Sada always. Ekatra in one place. Na not. Vai indeed. Para Atmanam of the subordinate living entities who work only under the direction of the Supersoul. Vina except. Ekam one. Utpatti of the creation. Laya annihilation. Sthiti and maintenance. Jai Prabhupada ki. Ishwaram, the controller. Sarvajnam, who knows everything. Past, present and future. Adyam, the original. Purusham, enjoyer. Sanatanam, eternal. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat the translation. Vritrasura continued. O Indra, no one is guaranteed of being always victorious, but the original enjoyer, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. And He knows everything. Being dependent and being obliged to accept material bodies, belligerent subordinates are sometimes victorious and sometimes defeated. Please hear the purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hriti sannivishto mattaha smriti jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. When two parties fight, the fighting actually goes on under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, the Supersoul. Elsewhere in the Gita 3:27, the Lord says, Prakatehe kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham miti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. The living entities work only under the direction of the Supreme Lord. The Lord gives orders to material nature, and she arranges facilities for the living entities. The living entities are not independent, although they foolishly think themselves the doers, karta. Victory is always with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As for the subordinate living entities, they fight under the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Victory or defeat is not actually theirs. It is an arrangement by the Lord through the agency of material nature. Pride in victory or moroseness in defeat is useless. One should fully depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is responsible for the victory and defeat of all living entities. The Lord advises, Niyatam kuru karmatvam karma jyayo hi karmanaha. Before perform your prescribed duties, for action is better than inaction. The living entity is ordered to act according to his position. Victory or defeat depends on the Supreme Lord. Karmani evadikaras tema phaleshu kadachena. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. One must act sincerely according to his position. Victory or defeat depends on the Lord. Vritrasur encouraged Indra, saying, "Don't be morose because of my victory. There is no need to stop fighting. Instead, you should go on with your duty. When Krishna desires, you will certainly be victorious." This verse is very instructive for sincere workers in the Krishna Consciousness movement. This verse is very instructive for sincere workers in the Krishna Consciousness movement. We should not be jubilant in victory or morose in defeat. We should make a sincere effort to implement the will of Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we should not be concerned with victory and defeat. Our only duty is to work sincerely so that our activities may be recognized by Krishna. So this is a very, very practical verse from Bhagavatam. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Janashlakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So thank you, Rajendra Prabhu.
Here.
Where is he? Thank you, Prabhu, for having us over. And where's Arpitha Mataji? She's busy upstairs. Thanks for having us over. We wanted to choose this verse from Vritrasur's pastime because the purport of the verse is very important, and so is the meaning. You find here that Vritrasur is actually advising Indra, and he's telling Indra something which is very good advice to all of us. When we perform any activity, the first thing we think of is whether we are victorious or whether we are defeated. No one wants to be defeated. Everyone wants to be victorious. But here Vritrasur is telling Indra that frankly speaking, victory or defeat is not entirely in our hands. If each one of us could work in such a way that we would be assured of victory, then we would always be successful. But you and I know that the reality of our material existence is that there are days when you work very hard but the result is the opposite. There are days when we don't work so hard but the results come anyway. There are times when we feel very unfairly treated because we've done our best but nothing turns out right. So that proves to us, even in our own life experience, that factually speaking, as Vritrasur says so nicely, no one is guaranteed of always being victorious and no one is guaranteed of always being defeated. This is one thing we have to understand. Why? Because Prabhupada writes in the purport, and he quotes Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna that Arjuna, you have a right to fight. Because at this moment your job scope as a Kshatriya is that you have to fight. You can't run away from it. Arjuna, on the eve of the battle, wanted to leave the field. He thought that why should I fight now? Because he felt that factually speaking, fighting means that he would be committing violence. But Krishna told him something that he did not consider. He said that actually, factually speaking, you are thinking this way because you are fighting based on your own whims and fancies. You don't understand and you have not bothered to check why you are fighting this war. So Krishna then goes on to explain to him that actually this battle of Kurukshetra is the arrangement of Krishna. Because if the battle did not take place, then the Kauravas would reign over the whole world. And if the Kauravas reigned over the whole world, then there would be tyranny, there would be adharma. But Krishna wanted that the Pandavas should reign. Even though they were 5 and they were not very powerful in terms of strategic warfare based on how much armies they had, they were not as powerful as the Kauravas. So on paper, the Kauravas were very powerful. But even then, the important factor that turned the war was the desire of Krishna. So actually, very frankly speaking, all our scriptures, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, whether it's the Bible, whether it's the Quran, they agree on one point. And that point is, no matter how much we desire something, that desire must eventually become aligned to the supreme desire of the Lord. The moment our desires are aligned to the supreme desires of the Lord, then what happens, Bhagavatam tells us, is our mind doesn't become disturbed. In 1.5.14 of Srimad Bhagavatam, this verse is very important. Tato vanyata kinchana yad vivekshataha Pritag drishashtat krita rupa namabihi na karhichit kwapicha dushtita matihi labe tavata natahu ivaspadam. Very important verse. Why? Because there Narada Muni is telling Vyas Bhagavan, and Vyas Bhagavan, don't forget, is the author of Bhagavatam. He is the compiler of the Vedas. But interestingly, in the 5th chapter, actually in the 4th chapter of Bhagavatam, after Vyas Bhagavan compiled all the Vedas, after he compiled the Puranas, after he compiled the Itihasas, after he did everything, Bhagavatam tells us that he was still not very satisfied. Can you imagine? We hardly touch any scriptures, but he was compiling the scriptures. So how much more powerful he should be, and how much more in touch with Bhagavatam he should be. But Bhagavatam tells us, despite the fact that he was actually compiling all these scriptures, he was not very satisfied in his heart. So the question then he was asking himself was, why is it that despite my compiling the Vedas, compiling the Puranas, why is it that even now I am not satisfied in my heart? This is an important question, because very often for us, when we are victorious, we feel satisfied, isn't it? When we are defeated, we actually feel dissatisfied. When you do a project, for example, and I'm sure many of you are, either project managers or you're working on projects, and the moment the project comes, everything ends and you have to really put your heart and soul into it. And by the end of the project, you become so attached to the project, it's become your baby. And then at the point when the project should launch or it should take off, then like everything else in life, there are either teething problems, challenges, or it goes smooth. And you ask even the most seasoned project manager, and he will tell you sometimes despite putting all the systems in place, things can also go wrong. It's possible to go wrong. The point is, what Vritasur is saying is, we cannot guarantee victory or defeat in this life. Arjuna himself could not guarantee that he would win. Duryodhana was convinced he will win. Duryodhana thought, this is guaranteed I'm going to win. But finally Krishna had the last say. Because Krishna's desire was that the battle should belong to the Pandavas. So in the same way, Vyas Bhagavan was dissatisfied. He had done everything. So what was wrong? So at that point he sat down and he began to think. And in his heart, he felt that he knew why he was not right. And he brings up this point in the 1st canto, 4th chapter. He says that maybe I'm feeling dissatisfied because I have not properly broadcast the glories of the Lord. In other words, I have not actually glorified Krishna. I have not put Krishna in the center of all that I was supposed to do. And at that point of time, his guru, spiritual master, Narada Muni, he comes. And when he comes, he looks at the face of Vyas Bhagavan. And he says, Vyas Bhagavan, your face looks very morose. You look defeated. Why? You have compiled everything. You should be victorious. Why is it that you're not feeling satisfied? And at that point of time, even without waiting for an answer from Vyas Bhagavan, Narada Muni correctly says that the reason why I think you are now in this state is because I think that you have not properly broadcast the glories of the Lord. And that is why you are dissatisfied. So what happened in Vyas Bhagavan's case was, he compiled everything, but he forgot to glorify Krishna. That is the one reason that separates us from victory and defeat. Whenever we perform anything and Krishna is not in the center, then he is not glorified. It is very difficult. But if we perform something and we put Krishna in the center, then Bhagavatam tells us, in any situation, whether the result is victorious or defeated, the fact that we have put Krishna in the center will make us satisfied. This is a very important point. So remember the formula. Is it okay? No? Actually, we're back to square one. It's okay, leave it. Everybody can hear me. If you want to move it also, I'm fine, because when I speak this way... Okay, then it should just be somewhere, so... Thank you, Prabhu. No, that's okay. So Krishna, where was I?
It's a formula.
Sorry?
You were telling it's a formula.
The formula. So the formula is very important. If we perform something and we first check with ourselves what would please Krishna, and we understand that would please Krishna, and then we align ourselves to that, then whether or not it is successful or we are defeated, apparently in the material world, it will not affect our satisfaction that we have done our best. This is an important point. Today I asked Prabhu whose house we are going to, and Prabhu told us that we are going to Arpitha Mataji's house. So when I remembered the word Arpita, in the 8th chapter, 7th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses that word Arpita. And it's a very significant verse that he uses, which is very important for this verse. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. Very important. My arpita manobuddhi. So my arpita. Arpita in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita means to surrender. To surrender. And then Krishna ends that verse by saying, Mam evaishyasi asamsayaha. So the key point of this verse that we are reading in Bhagavatam is summarized in this verse of Bhagavad Gita. And this is the mood in which we must perform our activities. It's a very practical verse because no one here can claim to be inactive. All of us have to work. Nobody is sitting in a sadhu posture, living in a cave. And even a sadhu sitting in a cave will have to be active eventually. No one can escape. Arjuna thought, better I shift now my duties from Kshatriya and become a sadhu. So he told Krishna that now I want to leave everything, go to a cave, sit down and meditate on the Supreme Lord. But Krishna was saying, I'm here. Why do you have to go to the cave? If I'm here, then my point to you is that you should fight. But fight under my direction. Align yourself with my vision. Tato anyata kinchana yad vivekshataha. So, Narada Muni now tells Vyas Bhagwan, and this is a golden rule for us. He says, any activity that you perform, which somehow or another is not aligned to the vision of the Supreme Lord, that activity will react with different names, forms, in such a way that it will agitate your mind. Dushtita matihi. That means your mind is like a pendulum, Today it's up here, tomorrow it's down there. One day I chant 16 rounds, another day it's 1 round. Today I feel like a devotee, tomorrow I feel like a demon. We're always going up and down. One day I feel very fired up, next day I'm down. So this is Dushtita Mati. So devotees always ask the question, why are we always Dushtita Mati? Why is it we cannot be stable? Because we are not aligning ourselves to what will please Krishna. We would rather please ourselves first. And then let's check if Krishna is pleased. By and by. If Krishna aligns with us, I'm happy. But for us to align with Krishna is very difficult. So this is why we are reading this verse today. Because Vritasur is telling Indra, Indra, you want to fight and defeat me. But victory is not guaranteed for either one of us. Victory depends on Krishna. Defeat also depends on Krishna. Why? Because it depends on what Krishna wants. So a devotee's job is to first of all find out what is it that Krishna wants and what is Krishna's vision. Sometimes people ask, how do we know what Krishna wants? Actually, Krishna has given us everything that he wants in Bhagavad Gita. It's a manual. So for example, if you buy a new TV, you have two options. Either you read the manual and fix the TV, or you use your own intelligence and take a much longer time and try to fix it. If you're smart, you save time and read the manual. That's why the manual is there. Otherwise, you just use your own concocted ideas and somehow or another you'll fix the TV. But once you fix the TV that way, you become very proud. Because you think, you see, I'm so smart, without the manual I fixed it. But the man who's smarter than you will fix it so that he has time to watch the TV longer than you have time to fix the TV. So actually, the intelligent one is one who follows the manual, understands what the vision is, and aligns himself very quickly to the vision. And in that way, he's saving himself so much disturbance of the mind. So much disturbance of the mind. So every time we become disturbed in our mind, every time we become agitated in our mind, there is only one reason, according to Bhagavatam. The reason is that somewhere along the line, we are not aligning ourselves to the vision of the Lord. We are not aligning ourselves to the vision of our spiritual masters. And we are not aligning ourselves to the principles given by the sastras. Doesn't matter what sastras you follow. You could be a Christian, you could be a Muslim. Any bona fide scripture will give you the vision of the Lord. All you have to do is align yourself to it. So actually this is a litmus test. And this is where we have to transport this idea into our daily work. That's the challenge. Because that is where the real challenge of becoming disturbed is going to be there. And that is why we chose this verse. Because this verse is in the middle of a great battle. And that is why we are discussing the verse. So before we discuss the verse, remember what Arjuna says. He says, Krishna tells Arjuna, therefore Arjuna, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, at all times, you do one thing. You just think of me in the form that you are seeing me now. It's very easy. Before we start work, before we begin our activities, Bhagavatam tells us, first of all, let us be clear why we do the activities. If we do it only for our satisfaction and not to the vision of the Lord, we become disturbed. But a little prayer, just by chanting Krishna's names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And just by praying to Krishna that, Krishna, before I start my activity now, let me have the knowledge and the humility to make sure that I perform this activity for your satisfaction. And the most important thing that will satisfy you, Krishna, is that at all times while I perform it, I must perform it knowing that ultimately you will decide the outcome. But let me try my best. And after I've done my best, the result is in your hands. That's why very often our spiritual master told us, in the beginning when we work in the morning, we sign contract, but our employer is Krishna. You signed a contract with all your employers, but our supreme employer is Krishna. So when a devotee walks into the office, he knows that his employer is Krishna. Everybody else has a different employer. But he knows now I have to make my work the best, because I work for that person who is the supreme of all supreme. Imagine if Krishna was your employer, surely you will not give him 6:30 work, isn't it? You will give him the best work that you can. Which is why in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, one of the great qualities of a Vaishnava is that he's Daksha. Daksha means he's expert in what he does. Vaishnavas, devotees, we are not shirkers, we are workers. That's why Arjuna was told, don't shirk your responsibility. Fight. But your problem is you're fighting for your name and fame. But now you fight according to my plan. Become an instrument. So in the beginning of the day, we employ ourselves into the employment of Krishna. And at the end of the day, Brahmani adhaya karmani. This is 5:10 of Bhagavad Gita. So there Krishna says, Brahmani adhaya. Adhaya means you resign. So at the end of the day, what do? We tender our resignation from the work. And once we tender the resignation, we hand over the project to Krishna. Because we have done it. And now whatever result that comes, we leave it in his hands. Those who depend on Krishna that way, they leave the office very peaceful. Because they know in their heart, in terms of conscience, they have given it their best. I learned this lesson when I was very young. When I was only in primary 1, that's first standard in India, but in Singapore it's primary 1. My mother was in the school, she was a teacher, and I got 99% in my results. So I was very happy. But I was second in class. Because the boy who beat me, he had 100%. It's not my fault, I did my best. But what can I do if he had 100%, I had 99%? So I was second. I came home and showed the report card to my mother, thinking she'll be happy, 99%. My mother was very unhappy. She said, I'm a teacher in the school, you should be first. That's why I always tell everyone, if you have a mother in school as a teacher, don't ever be a student there. It's a very bad move. You'll be traumatized, You can't do anything. You go to toilet also, people tell, oh, Mrs. So-and-so, your son went to toilet. You just don't have any freedom. So I was very discouraged. My mother said, no, I'm convinced you got 99%, but you did not put your heart into it. If you had put your heart into it, you would have got 100%. I went to sleep very discouraged. Then the night after some time, my father sneaks into the room. In my house, my mother is Home Affairs Minister, Finance Minister, and Prime Minister. So if we come from Indian parliamentary system background, my father is President. So, as president, you know the extent of his powers. So that's why at the end of the day, he sneaked in. He sat down with me and he said, you know what? You should not feel so discouraged. So I thought, this is very nice of Father. At least, he's giving me a softer side. He said, what you should ask is, you should touch your heart. And you should ask, I got 99%, but did I put my heart into it? Did I really give it all? If you did, then it doesn't matter whether you got 99, 100 or 10. But it's your heart that matters. And after that I realized that what my father told me, years later when I read Bhagavad Gita, I realized that is the essence of what I was being told. That's what Krishna wants from us. Whatever bhakti we do, it's not the result that is important. Whatever activity we do, ultimately it's not the result that's important. The thing we must really ask ourselves is, touch your heart. Have you put your best into it? That's what Krishna wanted from Arjuna. To put his heart and soul and align it in the vision of the Lord. That nobody needs to go for training. It is stated actually that anybody has the capacity to feel and to put your heart into it. You don't need a seminar to teach you how to put your heart into something. It's natural. Unfortunately, because we are so caught up with material world and victory and defeat, we forget that the ultimate victory is the victory of putting the heart into the devotional service of the Lord. And that's when I learned my lesson, that the results don't matter. What matters is, can you walk away with a clear conscience that you have given it your best and that you have offered it to Krishna? That is only between you and Krishna, Prabhus and Matajis. No one can interfere there. It is really a very intimate exchange between you and the Lord. And everybody has a voice of conscience, isn't it? The only question is whether you want to hear the voice or you choose to ignore it. The voice of conscience is the voice of the super soul. And that's why he is known as Sarvasya Chaham Riddhi Sannavishto. He is in the heart of everyone. So this point we must always remember. Victory and defeat is not what drives the devotees. The fact is, what drives them is giving it the best shot and trying their best. That's why Prabhupada was asked one time by a female disciple, I'm taking care of my child and sometimes it's very difficult to actually perform my sadhana. What should I do? And Prabhupada said, if you just take care of your child well as a mother, that in itself is devotional service. And in doing that, you will please Krishna. And if you sincerely try to continue chanting your rounds, Krishna will create the favorable situation for you to continue your devotional service. The favorable situation is created by Krishna. But he is attracted by your heart. If you really want to serve Krishna, Krishna will create a favorable situation. Even though the situation looks very unfavorable, he will make it favorable. I want to end today's program by talking about this point of what is favorable and what is not favorable. The person who's speaking this verse is Vritrasur. And Vritrasur actually is a demon. But surprisingly, he is one of the great devotees of the Lord. So that proves one thing. To Krishna, it doesn't matter what form you take. You can be a Devata and forget Krishna. You can be a demon and remember Krishna. You can be in the form of an Indian-bodied person and never remember Krishna. You could be in the form of any other person and still remember Krishna. You could be an elephant like Gajendra and still remember Krishna. You could be Hanumanji with no material qualification and still remember Krishna. You could be that squirrel in the Ramayana who tried very hard to throw little specks of sand into the bridge, trying to build something. And Hanumanji then told him, you should move aside because whatever you're throwing in, I'll throw much more. And Lord Ram came in and said, that's not the point here. The squirrel is serving according to his capacity. You are serving according to your capacity. But I am accepting both your offerings because you are doing it according to your own sincerity and capacity. So Vritrasur was demon. But Bhagavatam tells us that actually he was a great devotee previously known as Chitraketu Maharaj. As Chitraketu Maharaj, one time he took darshan of Lord Sankarshan himself. But he became a bit proud of his devotional service. So one day as he was passing by, he sees Lord Shiva seated near Kailash. And Mother Parvati is seated on his lap. Narada Muni, Brahmaji are seated and they're all discussing Bhagavatam. And Chitraketu Maharaj laughs. He says, how can Lord Shiva be seated? And how can Parvati Mata sit on his lap? Even though there are so many great, august men of great privilege and spirituality. But he did not realize how great a personality Lord Shiva is. And Lord Shiva is Asutosh, easily pleased, and he is master of the senses. Parvati Mata sitting on his lap will never disturb Lord Shiva, because Parvati Mata herself is none other than the superintendent of this material world. She is always by the lap of Lord Shiva. For this offense of criticism, Parvati Mata got very upset with Lord Shiva. With Chitraketu Maharaj. But Lord Shiva never got upset. When Chitraketu Maharaj laughed and said, oh, how wondrous is it that Lord Shiva is seated this way, Lord Shiva simply smiled and remained silent. This is an exemplary act that we must learn. Many people will criticize us. Sometimes people will find fault with us. But Bhagavatam says, instead of throwing back faults at them, instead of fighting with them, why we waste the time? Follow the example of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was very simple in his heart, and he was silent because he had much more important matters to deal with than responding to a criticism. So because of Parvati Mata's curse, Chitraketu Maharaj realized that pride had come before the fall. And so he accepted Parvati Mata's curse like a devotee. A devotee accepts any situation because he knows or she knows that in that situation, even though it looks like he or she is defeated, that situation has the hand of Krishna. So when we are in any challenging situation, we should not lose hope. We should know that Krishna's hand is there. And if we keep faith, Krishna will pick us up from a difficult situation. This is the example of Chitraketu Maharaj. So Bhagavatam tells us Chitraketu Maharaj then became Vritrasur in his next life. And he became Vritrasur because Indra, who was the king of heaven, one day what happened was Indra offended his Guru Maharaj, Brihaspati. He had become so powerful and so proud of his position that one day when Brihaspati walked in, he did not even stand up to greet him. Brihaspati became upset. And when you don't get the blessings of Guru, when you actually don't give proper respect to one who is guiding you, then you only have yourself to blame. So what happened was Indra and all the devatas lost their strength. And the demons, the asuras, who were their constant eternal enemies, they became very powerful. So for a time it looked as if the asuras were going to conquer the heavenly planets. And that worried Indra. Because Indra's aim in life was that he should always be Swargaloka's king. That was his aim. But at the same time, the devatas always had faith in Krishna. So what happened was, they all went to Krishna. And they prayed very hard and asked, Krishna, now what happens? Brihaspati doesn't want to be with us. So Krishna told them, you please go and find this very powerful Brahmana known as Vishwarupa. He is so powerful that if you go to him and ask him to become Guru, he will help you. Only thing you must be careful, devatas, is that Vishwarupa is related to the devatas because he's Brahmana. But on his mother's side, he's related to the asuras. So even though you want him to help you, he may have some inclination to his mother's relatives. Sometimes we are caught in between, and then this is what happened to Vishwarupa. So Indra says, never mind, we will take Vishwarupa. So Vishwarupa becomes the guru of the devatas. And when he performs all the yajnas, the devatas become strong. But when they fight the demons, they realize that they cannot defeat the demons and the demons cannot defeat the devatas. It's what we call a draw. It's always either 1-all, 2-all, 3-all, but they never can defeat each other. So one day, Indra sits very close to Vishwarupa as he's performing the yajna. And he hears all the mantras for the benefit of the devatas. At the end of it, he hears Vishwarupa's voice dropping. And then he hears Vishwarupa chanting prayers for the benefit of the demons, because they are related to his mother. Indra became so upset that without even thinking, he picked up his sword and he beheaded Vishwarupa. Vishwarupa was Brahmana. And whatever it is, he is a spiritual master. Already one spiritual master, Indra abandoned. Second spiritual master, he chopped off the head. At this rate, nobody should become spiritual master to Indra. Because your life sentence is there. So when he did that, Vishwarupa's father, Twashta, became very upset. And Twashta then vowed that Indra must be checked. So from the fire, he created an entity so powerful that Bhagavatam said he grew so fast in all the four directions that within a few days his head was touching the clouds. Bhagavatam said that his beard and mustache was like melted copper, and his whole persona and body was like a burnt mountain. You know, a burnt mountain, very big, very huge, very, very powerful. And this being was so big that he appeared to cover the whole material world. And that's why he was named by his father as Vritra. Vritra means one who covers everything. So that is how Vritrasura got his name. So the moment Vritrasura was born, the father told him that now you are the enemy of Indra and you are now going to defeat him. Teach him a lesson and do not come back until you have finished him. So Vritrasura was born to kill Indra. That was what we call his job scope. In the material world, we all have our job descriptions, isn't it? Well, Twasta's job description for Vritrasura was very simple. You just kill Indra, that's it. So Vritrasura then comes to the battlefield and all the demons are with him. And Bhagavatam tells us he's so powerful that when he roars, all the devatas, their hearts flutter and they faint because of the roar of Vritrasura. And even though the devatas tried throwing so many weapons at Vritrasura, he was so powerful, he was just crushing them under his feet and just smashing them with his clubs. So all the devatas ran again, and now with Indra they again approach Krishna. And they say, Krishna, last time you asked us to come to Vishwarupa, see what happened. Krishna said, I asked you to take Vishwarupa, but I didn't tell you to kill him, isn't it? That was your doing, so don't blame it on me. But now Krishna says, there is only one way to defeat Vritrasura. You can defeat him by going to see this great sage known as Dadichi. Dadichi actually taught this very powerful science of Narayana Kavacha. And this Narayana Kavacha shield is so powerful that it will protect anyone. And the sage's whole body is made up of the Narayana Kavacha shield. So tell him now to give up his body for a higher cause. And from his bones you make a very powerful weapon known as the thunderbolt. When you make this weapon with the force of the blessings of the sage and with my blessings that you will defeat him, then use the weapon to defeat Vritrasura. But Krishna says something very nice here. He says, do not worry when you fight Vritrasura. Because even though he is very powerful, he is by nature not envious of you. This is devotee. A devotee, to become peaceful in life, we should never be envious of anyone. Even in our workplace, we have our colleagues, we have our competitors. We can be competitive, but we don't have to be envious. We can agree to disagree. We can have very good competition. But when we see someone doing very well, we should have the big-heartedness and the ability to rise above our own follies and say, this is a job well done. I should learn something from you. So actually Indra was told by Krishna indirectly that your nature is not like that. Your nature is that you are envious. That's why you want Swargaloka. But this Vritrasura is a devotee. He will fight very hard, but ultimately you will defeat him. But even though you defeat him, Krishna says something very nice. Victory will be his. So keep that in mind. Because by the end of this pastime, you'll understand why Krishna says that point. So then, Indra goes to Dadichi and he says, Dadichi, by the order of Krishna, give up your body. Who gives up their body like that, Nobody gives up. If somebody comes and says, Krishna told me that you have to give up your body because your bones are very precious. Chances are we'll tell them, you're mad, you please go, I'm not giving up my body. But Dadichi was a pure devotee of the Lord. And he told himself, what use is my body if it cannot be used in the service of the Lord? So he gives up his body, but his soul actually unites with the Supreme Lord. And at that point of time, Dadichi's bones become the source of Vishwakarma, the celestial architect, who then wields it and makes it into a powerful weapon known as Vajra, the thunderbolt. And this becomes the weapon that Indra brings to the battlefield. So Bhagavatam tells us now Indra brings this to the battlefield. And when he comes to the battlefield, Indra is so effulgent and the devatas are so inspired that they inflict heavy defeat on the asuras. The asuras become so scared of the power of Indra that they start running away. Vritrasura, their general, turns to them and says, why are you cowards running away from the battlefield? You're on the battlefield, surely there will be defeats. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that we are in the battlefield of life. We should not become morose when we are performing devotional service and there are challenges. Challenges in devotional service means that we are on the right track. Someone asked, my Guru Maharaj once, this society that you have, there are so many problems in it. My Guru Maharaj told him that where there are problems, there is one very important point. If the body is sick or the body has some problem with it, it is a symptom of being alive. If the body has no problems, that means the body is dead. When your body is dead, there is no problems. But it means your body is dead. But if your body has problems, challenges, the good news is you're alive. And if you're alive, use it in the service of Krishna. This is such a nice point. So devotees, our vision is different. When we see problems, we see opportunities. The materialist sees problems and he sees threats. A devotee sees problems and he sees opportunities. This is a time for me to pray more to Krishna, to invest more faith in Krishna. So Vritasur laughed at the demons. He said, you are fools. He is very strong, but we are also strong. And we have a duty. Our job scope is to fight. Why are you running away? And then when he does that, they never turn back. So Vritasur becomes very upset with them. He says, doesn't matter, I will fight them myself. So when he turns, he sees the devatas are running after the demons who are running away. And they are trying to kill them as they are retreating. So now Vritasur scolds the devatas. He scolded demons, now he scolds the devatas. He says, you people are equally as cowards as the demons who are running. Because the ethics of warfare is that you never hurt an enemy when he's fleeing. You fight with him face to face, but you never hurt him when you flee. So you devatas are no better than the demons. You are not following the rules and regulations of the proper warfare. So Vritasur was very strict about his duty. And when he did that, what happened was Indra decided that he should attack. So he takes his club, not his vrajra. He takes his club and he throws it. He throws it very powerfully at Vritasur. But Vritasur is so powerful, Bhagavatam says, that he catches the club as if you would catch a garland that is being thrown to you. When someone throws a garland to you, very easy to catch, isn't it? Not difficult. In the same way, the club that came so powerfully, he just caught it with his left hand. Bhagavatam says with left hand. Not even with the right hand, which is your master hand. And what does he do? He throws back the club to Indra's elephant. And the club is so powerful, it hits Airavata on the cheek. And Airavata's cheek, starts bleeding. And Airavata was thrown back 14 yards, Bhagavatam says. Airavata elephant is not normal elephant, it's about 2-3 times the size of the normal elephant. But just the club was so powerful that he was thrown back 14 yards. And when he fell, Indra fell with him. And at that point of time, Vritasur should have capitalized, isn't it? But when Vritasur saw Indra was down, and when he saw that the elephant was down, Vritasur, according to religious fighting principles, he stopped. He waited. So he was not influenced by the desire that victory at any cost. He was guided by the principles of ethics. He understood that this is not the way I'm supposed to fight. So what does he tell Indra then? He says, Indra, don't be morose. Because Indra looked very morose. Imagine your arch enemy turns to you and say, hey, don't feel so bad. Get up now. Then he speaks this verse. He says, Indra, you should understand one thing. No one is guaranteed victory, neither you or me. The only person in this world who's always victorious is Krishna. So those who are with Krishna, they are always victorious. Those who are not with Krishna, they cannot be victorious. So then he tells Indra one very important point. He says, Indra, do you not realize that victory is yours on this battlefield? He tells him, victory is yours. Why? Because you have been blessed by Krishna to make a weapon out of the bones of a great devotee. And it is the Lord's plan that you will be victorious over me. But look at me, Indra. Despite knowing that I will be defeated because the Lord's plan are against me, I am still going to fight you. I will still fight you until I cannot fight you. Because it is my duty to do so. And then he says something very nice. He says, even though I will fight you, and even though I will probably lose, and if I lose, victory is assured for you. Therefore, if victory is assured for you, then what happens? Then you will kill me. And when you kill me, Indra, I will try very hard to place my heart, my body and my mind at the lotus feet of Krishna. Because that is what I desire. And now Indra starts to realize that Vritasur is not on the battlefield simply for a war. He's actually on the battlefield because he realizes that first, his duty is to fight. But real victory for him is that he should always remember the lotus feet of the Lord. And then Vritasur sings a beautiful verse. Aham hareta vapadaika mula dasanudaso bhavitasmi bhuya manasmareta supate gunamste granitava karma kayo krotu kaya nanaka prishtam nachaparameshtam na sarva bhaumam narasadipatyam na yoga siddhira punarbhavam va samanjasadva virahaya kamshe ajata paksha iva mataram kagaha stanyam yatavat shudhara churataha priyam priyeva vyusitam vishanna manoravindakshudikshate tvam mamottama shloka janeshu sakyam samsara chakre brahmata swakarmabhi tvanmayayadha darajarageshu asakta chittasya nanata bhuya. 4 verses. These 4 verses are one of the most important verses for us to remember, understand and live by. And he sings these verses while Indra is feeling morose. He sings this verse in a great battle. This is the greatness of devotees, They can pause a fight and remember Krishna. And it's a very important point for us. In whatever situation we are in, Prabhus and Matajis, we should always remember that we should always have the names of the Lord always on our tongues, anytime. Even in the midst of all our projects and all the difficulties, we should never forget who we are. We should never forget our place. And we should always, with humility, know that finally victory and defeat is in the hands of Krishna. Those who know that, they become free. Vritasur was very free now, because he says here that, my Lord, when will I again be able to be a servant of your servants? When will I take the shelter of their lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servants. Why? So that my mind may always think of you, my words may always glorify your attributes, and my body must always engage in the loving service of your lordships. This is the mood of a devotee. So a devotee always wants to use any opportunity to remember Krishna. So Vritasur reveals in his heart to Indra that, Indra, you have been blessed by Krishna. You are going to win this war. But I am not a sore loser. I am still going to give you a good run for your money. So now get up and fight. When Indra heard this, he lost his moroseness. He said, I am really privileged to fight with you, Vritasur. You are discussing Bhagavatam on the battlefield. Even though I am Devata and I am supposed to be a devotee, I realize today your greatness. You are really a devotee. So let us fight now. So now Indra hurls his thunderbolt at Vritasur. And when he hurls his thunderbolt at Vritasur, Vritasur's arm is chopped off. He has only one arm, but it doesn't matter. He grows very big and he tries to hit Indra in such a way that the thunderbolt leaves his hand. The moment it leaves his hand, again all the devatas become morose. Again Indra becomes morose. Again Vritasur says, Indra, I already told you that you're going to win. Look at me. I have lost one arm, but I have so much faith in Krishna that it doesn't matter whether I'm victorious in this material world. What matters is whether I'm victorious in the spiritual world. Nanaka prishtam nachaparameshtam. I don't desire the greatness of this material world. I don't desire to be Lord of the lower planets, the Lord of the higher planets. I don't desire to be Lord of Dhruvaloka. I don't desire for yogic powers. I don't want any of this if it means that I cannot serve the lotus feet of the Lord. I don't want this. This is mood of devotee. Sometimes we want something but we don't get it. There are only two ways. Either we become disappointed and we say, Krishna, now no more praying to you. Or we say, Krishna, by you not giving me something, I have full faith that I don't need it. That's why you're not giving it. What I don't need is not what I want. There's a big difference, Bhagavatam says, between your wants and your needs. Krishna doesn't want to fulfill your wants, because wants always lead to sense gratification. And wants means you forget Krishna. But what you need, Krishna always gives. And that should always be enough. So even though Vritasura was in a difficult situation, he accepted that his situation was needed. And therefore he was free. So if we don't want to become disturbed in our mind, whatever that comes, a devotee takes it as samanjas. Samanjas means, Krishna, this is an opportunity for me to remember you. In difficulty, don't we remember Krishna much more? It's true. When you are in difficulty, your parents are in difficulty, your children are sick, that's the time we all become big devotees. We chant Krishna's names, we do so many things for Krishna. I was saying yesterday, my mother always knew when the exams were coming because suddenly she would see me chanting very furiously. Just by me chanting when I was younger, she knew, your exams are coming, that's why you become devotee. After the exams finished, never saw me chanting. Then she knew the exams are over. Then suddenly when I started chanting, she knew, now results are coming. That's why you're chanting very hard. So in difficulties also we have to remember Krishna. So Vritasura was saying, I am in so much difficulty, but I am remembering Krishna. So this is the point that he's saying. So he says, now pick up your thunderbolt and get this over with. Enough of this moroseness. So now Indra finally picks up the thunderbolt and now he shoots it at the other arm of Vritasura. And Vritasura loses 2 arms. So what does he do now? He makes himself very big. He puts his mouth on the floor, on the ground of the battlefield, and he opens his mouth so huge that he swallows Indra and Airavata. Again the Devatas became moros. But Indra had Narayana Kavacha shield, so he was very powerful. Inside, from within, he used the power of the thunderbolt and he smashed the abdomen of Vritasura and he created a large hole from which he came out. Vritasura, Bhagavatam said, fell like a beautiful mountain collapsing. Even though he was going to be defeated, he appeared more beautiful than Indra. Why? Because while he was being defeated materially, his mind, his heart, his words, his consciousness, they were all at the lotus feet of Krishna. He knew he had fought the good race. He had run the good race and fought the good fight. That's a very powerful Christian saying, isn't it? That I have fought the good fight. This is a very important point. He did that not for victory, but he did that because it was his duty. But he accepted that whatever Krishna gives is coming from Krishna. That's why when we work for Krishna, always accept what Krishna gives. If you don't accept what Krishna gives, you will not be peaceful. If you expect something from Krishna, then you will be disappointed. Because our expectations no one can fulfill. Isn't it true? When we want to get married, we have 100 expectations of our wives, isn't it? And very often the expectations are never met. It's vice versa, by the way. It's not just the wives, it's the husbands also. But those who always expect everything from relationships, they are disappointed. But those who accept people for who they are, you find they are not disappointed. They work very well with people. That's why when our children grow up in life, we tell them this principle of Bhagavatam. Whatever comes, you accept as Krishna. You will never be disappointed. But every time you expect something from this world will disappoint you. Because there is no end to our expectations. Vritasura did not expect anything. And therefore he saw the hand of Krishna. And when he fell, finally to end this wonderful, glorious pastime, what did Indra do? Indra took the thunderbolt to cut off the head of Vritasura, to end. And Bhagavatam tells us it took 365 days for him to behead Vritasura. How much time he wasted. And all that time, was he thinking of Krishna? No. He was thinking, when am I going to finish this? When am I going to become king of Swargaloka? It can only happen after I kill Vritasura. But 365 days as Vritasura was leaving his body, what was he thinking? He was thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. So when Vritasura ended his life, Bhagavatam said his spiritual spark from his body came out and went to the spiritual planets of Vaikuntha to be an eternal associate of the Lord. Who was left behind in the material world?
Indra.
Indra. And after killing Vritasur, who incidentally is a Brahmana, and before that he killed his brother Vishwarupa, also Brahmana, and before that he insulted his spiritual master, also Brahmana. The moment Indra killed Vritasur, he thought that he will enjoy in the kingdom of heaven. But sin personified in a form of an old witch, very smelly and very scary, kept haunting him wherever he went. It came to a point where he could not even go to Swargaloka. And he spent 1,000 years of his celestial life hiding in the lake of Mano Sarovar, hiding within the stem of the lotus flower of a lake, so that he could stay away from this sin personified. And because whatever activities he did was ultimately for his own sense gratification, Indra won the battle, but he lost the war. Vritasur appeared to lose the war. He appeared to lose the battle. But in the long run, he won the war. Because he was not concerned with victory or defeat. He was concerned with aligning to the vision of Krishna. This is the great, great point that we take from Bhagavatam. Finally, results will never be in our hands. But we should always remember that what will please Krishna, that is how I should act. If you ask the question, how will I know what will please Krishna? You please read Bhagavad Gita. You study Bhagavatam. You hear from the great acharyas. And by hearing them, you will come to know what Krishna likes. And after knowing what Krishna likes, you please do what your father likes. When you do something that pleases Father, the whole kingdom of the Father is yours, automatically. But if you do something that doesn't please Father, even though Father loves you so much, the kingdom of God is not open to you. Sometimes people come and ask me, as a lawyer, people come and ask me, Father has so much money, how do I get money from him? I tell them there's no hard and fast rule, there's no easy way. The only way is you have to wait for Father to die. Then you will inherit his kingdom. In Bhagavatam there's a verse, Tatte nukambam sushamikshamano bunja naevadma kritam vipakam hridvagva purbhir vidadan namaste jivetayo mukta pade sadhaya bhav. Very important verse, 10:14-8 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this verse tells us something very nice. It says, the devotee of the Lord, when he is in difficulty, he does not see these difficulties as difficulties. He accepts that whatever challenges he is facing are the result of his own impious activities. It must be my own karmas. Why to blame other people? It must be something I've done, that's why I have to pay for it. Even though the devotee is actually under the control of Krishna, he has humility. Like Vritasur. Vritasur did not claim to be a devotee, but he had the humility to say, Indra, you are favored by Krishna. Therefore, victory is yours and I must flow with what Krishna wants. Because he did that, victory was his. Even though it appeared that Indra was victorious. Indra wanted something material from Krishna. So Krishna said, alright, you take Swargaloka, but before that you suffer for 1,000 years. And after getting Swargaloka, in the 8th canto, Bali Maharaj comes and takes over Swargaloka. And Indra is back to square one again. But what happened to Vritasur? He closed his banking accounts. He finished everything. And he went back to Krishna. That's what we have to do in this material world. If you keep your accounts open, you're always going to get your debits and credits. But close your accounts. No more credit, no more debit. You are completely free of this material world. So Bhagavatam then tells us, Tattenu Kampam. The devotee always sees his problems as deserving of what he should get. And he says, instead of wasting time lamenting and blaming people, better I blame myself and increase my devotional service. So I should spend more time increasing the quality of my devotional service. If today I am chanting 1 round of Krishna's names, I should now endeavor to chant 2 rounds of Krishna's names. If I am spending only 5 minutes a day with Krishna, tomorrow I should spend 10 minutes a day with Krishna. That is how we gradually come closer to Krishna. You all know your own timetables. Work out something. If your appointment with Krishna only lasts 5 minutes a day, you tell Krishna now, Krishna, I want to spend 10 minutes more with you. Because I know that is the final victory. Not the victory of the material world. Nothing you can take from here to next life, Prabhus and Matajis. Nothing. Not your clothes, not your degrees, not your projects, nothing. Everything ends with you. And next life, when you come as a baby, you don't come with all the certificates from past life. You don't give your mother, see, last life I was MSc. Mother doesn't know what you are. You don't know who mother is also. You come into this world with nothing. Only thing we come into this world is that we are crying. Isn't it so? And when the child doesn't cry, the mother becomes worried. The doctors become worried. They give a good slap on the back of the child. When the child cries, we are very happy. But we don't realize the crying is the start of the entire life of challenges and crying. It's a sneak preview of what's going to happen for the next 60, 70 years of your life. So we should understand, take this life as an opportunity. And when I told my client, only thing you should do is just wait it out until father dies, because that's the only way you're going to get your wealth. Bhagavatam in this verse says, all a living entity has to do to inherit the kingdom of God is to simply remain alive to devotional service. Just keep your head afloat in bhakti. And at the end of the day, when the Supreme Father is pleased, the whole kingdom of God is yours. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Shla Prabhupada ki. Jai Shla Gurudev ki. Jai Gaura Premanand. Thank you, Prabhus. Thank you, Matajis, for being very kind, for being very attentive, and for taking so much of your time in being here. Many of you I may have met for the first time, but I wish you all the best in your spiritual life. Krishna Consciousness is so nice that you don't have to forego anything. You just have to include Krishna in whatever you do. Sometimes people tell us, do we have to give up everything? But we tell everyone, don't give up anything. You just add Krishna. And once you add Krishna, you find that there's so much quality to what you're doing. And that's what we want. Quantity is good, but quality actually attracts quantity, not the other way around. When you have quality, everything comes. But when quantity is there, quality is missing, then all our actions become rituals. We just do something for the numbers game, but we don't do it with the heart. Hare Krishna. No harmonium, huh? He's coming. Prabhu is leaving. Okay. Prabhu, thank you very much. Aprameya Prabhu and Roshni Mataji have come all the way from New Jersey to be with us. They're very active members of the congregation there. So I'm just happy that they have come, and now they're flying off. Thank you very much for your association, Prabhu and Mataji. Keep coming back to Minneapolis.
Sure.
We have a wonderful team of devotees here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. And of course, on behalf of them, you're all welcome to New Jersey.
Yes, please.
Right, they are
Please
very
come.
good cooks. So if I were you, I'll just plan a big tour of 20, 30 devotees. And
Please come.
Go
We'll be
taste
happy to
the
host.
Please. If you are fed up with rice and dal, let's go there.
And after saying all this, you all should be saying that I should invite all of you to Singapore. Which I do heartily, of course. When you get tired of US and you want to come all the way to that part of the world, please, you're always welcome. We need as much devotee association as we can in Singapore. Singapore is a very difficult city to stay in. ISKCON is not even recognized in Singapore. It's not even, doesn't even have a legal basis. You can't go out on the street to distribute books. You can't speak to people door to door. You can't do Harinam on the streets. It's all illegal. It's all illegal. So everything has to be underground. But that which is precious and legal becomes very, very important, isn't it? When you tell a child, don't touch this, child will touch it. If you tell the child, hey, go and touch it, child doesn't touch it. So when everyone tells us, don't chant Krishna's names, somehow in Singapore, we have to chant Krishna's names. So it's an opportunity. People say, oh, Prabhu, it's very difficult, but we took it as what Vitrasu taught us. It's an opportunity. Should we just start chanting that?
Yeah. Just harmonium is coming.
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Actually, when I read the title, when he gave the title, Lose the Battle and Win the War,
Yes.
it was very clear.
Now it's clear, huh? No, I think this way is good. Just keep it this way. It has a life of its own.
Actually, this stand is not good.
Yeah. Even in Singapore, all our stands only last for a few months. There's an expiry date. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Is the harmonium coming or should we just start?
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Just give me 2 minutes. Maybe anybody asks me.
Are there any questions? Sorry. Any violent objections to what I just described from Bhagavatam?
It is a nice point, Prabhuji, that
Yes, sir.
continuation from the yesterday's lecture, that in the translation, the person said that being dependent and being obliged to accept material bodies, belligerent subordinates are sometimes victorious and sometimes defeated. And that's the practical example that yesterday what we talked about.
Exactly.
That the senses are protected. So
Yes.
his senses were protected
His senses
because he
were
was dependent.
Very nice one.
And so he wasn't like morose or he
No.
wasn't angry
Yeah,
when
he was just fixed in the devotional service.
So that's
So in that fixing of devotional service, he was just dependent on Krishna for whatever result it came. So victory and defeat were not important. And it starts with the principle that nothing is guaranteed in this life. That's a very important point. The moment we accept that, we will accept that there is something higher than us. Otherwise, it's very hard. We want guarantees, but we don't get them. People get married and they think they should be happy. But there's no guarantee. Some people are alright, some people are not. Some people have children and they think with children, it's guaranteed I will have happiness. Those who don't have children, they want to have children. They say, if I have children, everything will be nice. You ask those who have children, they'll say, sometimes I wish I had no children. You see those who are not married, they say, oh, if I get married, I'll become very happy. Then you meet those who are married for a long time, they'll tell you, actually, your position is not so bad, huh? But don't quote me on this. So like that, everyone wants a guarantee. But the nature of the material world is we cannot depend on this. So better depend on that which is completely stable. And that is Krishna. That's why yesterday we said, Rishikesha means one who protects your senses. Indra's senses were not protected because he wanted Krishna for a material motive. So Krishna will fulfill your desire if you want material motive. But ultimately, you win a battle but you lose the war. But a devotee is smarter. He realizes permanence is the true key to peace. And if you want to become peaceful, then you please depend on Krishna. Those who depend on Krishna, their senses are protected and the senses are directed by Krishna. Brittasu's senses were on the battlefield. They should have been agitated. But instead, they were directed towards the lotus feet of the Lord. That's why he could chant nice shlokas, even while about to fight. He could stop for his enemy Indra and say, Indra, I'm going to lose, so if you want, you better fight. So you fulfill your destiny and I'll fulfill my destiny. This is the greatness of devotees. So, never feel morose. Never feel defeated. Jatayu was in his very old age when he met Ravana. He could have decided there and then that I'm not going to fight Ravana because I'm retired anyway, I'm going to die. But instead what happens is, he accepts the challenge and he fights. But he knows, Prabhu and Mataji, that he is going to die. In the beginning he fights very hard and it appears as if he will win. But ultimately he loses the battle. But though he lost the battle, he won the war. Because when he fought because he wanted to please Lord Ram. That was his motive. Let me try very hard to please Lord Ram. And though he lay dying, when Lord Ram came, Lord Ram was so impressed and so pleased by the devotion of Jatayu that he himself gave him a funeral that only a son can give to his father. And on that day, Lord Ram famously says in Ramayana that today, Lakshman, even though I have lost Sita, I am grieving more for the loss of Jatayu than for the loss of Sita. This is what it means when we have devotion in the heart. Jatayu just depended on Krishna and did his duty. He appeared to lose materially, but spiritually, he was the biggest winner of them all. Thank you, Prabhu, for bringing this up. Let's chant Krishna's names for 5 minutes, and then we can end the program. Sorry.
Prabhu, can I ask?
Yes, sorry, yes. Prabhu.
The expectations versus accepting what the result is, which is really difficult in the material world, right? Say for example, I run a couple of projects. Until I set the expectations right, and what I'm going to accept is not acceptable to me because it's not acceptable to the management.
Yes.
I need to set the expectations right, and I expect people also to work as per my expectations.
Yes.
So how would I kind of take the instruction from Vritasura and Indra's story? Okay, Vritasura is not expecting anything.
Yes.
He's just accepting whatever it is coming.
Yes.
But is that practically possible?
It's very practical. Because Prabhu, your job scope is to expect. So you must expect. That is your job scope. Your job scope is, as a manager, you must demand X, Y and Z from your from those under you. So that expectation is not your expectation. It is an expectation that is subsumed within your job description. It's part of your job to expect. But your duty as a devotee is to understand that while you expect the best from them, whether or not the project succeeds or doesn't succeed is not dependent finally on them or you, but finally on Krishna. That's the only thing you have to accept. Everything else is within your job description to expect. I'm a lawyer. I have to fight the case. So I expect my client to give me A, B, C, D before I start my case. It's well within my scope. But I do not become disturbed if he doesn't give me all that, because I realize that no matter how much I've tried, he cannot give me that. But I still have to deliver. So I will do my best. But if the expectations are within the job scope and we have to do it, then let us do it to inspire our men. But at the end of the day, we should have the overall vision to understand that even though we expect so many things, they may or may not happen, and that is ultimately up to Krishna. That's the only difference between the manager and the devotee in you. That's the only difference. If you just work hard on that last 1% of thinking, gradually speaking, even while you remain motivated, even while you remain very, very competitive, you know at the end of the day that your senses are ultimately under Krishna. And that when Krishna wants, it will happen. If Krishna doesn't want, you will have to accept it. But doesn't mean you don't go back to the drawing board, doesn't mean you don't do a post-mortem, doesn't mean you don't do an analysis, doesn't mean you don't improve. But it means, like Vritasur, that you know Krishna wants something, but I am obliged to continue with what I have to do too. It is a very amazing state of balance to keep, but it comes on the basis of good sadhana. If your chanting is nice, Mangalarti is there, you're constantly with Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, this apparently difficult concept which eludes the materialist will somehow by Krishna's mercy be put in our hearts. It will come. But till that time, don't be morose. Don't be discouraged. Continue with faith. And eventually Krishna will help us there. See, we don't have anything to lose. The opposite end is that you forget about all this and just continue the way we all are doing. In any case, we'll become disturbed. Better to become disturbed in Krishna's service than to be disturbed in our service. If we are disturbed in Krishna's service, then we become liberated. But we are disturbed in Maya's service, we become trapped. Is that helpful? So sometimes people say it's very difficult, but I always tell them, because Prabhupada told us, that which is difficult is valued. That which is difficult to obtain is precious. If you go and buy diamonds, you don't expect that everybody will turn up and line up to buy diamonds, because many people can't afford diamonds. Diamonds are precious. You must work very hard before you can buy a diamond. But when you buy it, it's value. Krishna consciousness is like that. It's not easy. But then that which is not easy is always valuable. We have to accept it that way. And one thing we should remember, God may be free, but He's not cheap. He's freely available to everyone, but He's not cheap. There is a process, there is a way, and you must have the adhikar to approach Him. In this material world, we need qualification to go anywhere. You want to go into a country club, you need a qualification, you need membership. If you want to get into the spiritual country club, you need to qualify yourself. Some people say, no, God should just accept me as I am. He has accepted you as you are, but you still must qualify yourself. That is very important. Very good point, Prabhu.
Exactly, that is what I was thinking while lecture was going on. See, when I recruit a person into the organization, I expect a certain IQ level for that person. I want him to perform at a certain level.
Yes.
If I see anywhere if he's not meeting my criteria,
Yes.
then I would say that no, you're unfit.
Yeah.
But that person may be unfit for this job, may
Yes.
be fit for something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But if I were to consider this as my family, then even though my expectations are pretty high, then I have to kind of bring down my expectations and work according to the person's capability. Then I will try to accept it.
Yes. But if it's going to damage your company, Prabhu, then ultimately you're not doing a service to the company. Because your main job is that you are hired by the company. So even though we may have sympathy and compassion, we also have to put them in the correct place at the right time. So if the company's standard is high and you are tasked to keep the standard high, then it is your duty to do that. Just like Arjuna was saying, why should I kill? I should sit in the cave. But Krishna says, sorry, forgot to read your job description. Part of it includes being on the field and fighting. So you have to fight. That's why the Bhagavad Gita is so practical. I teach Bhagavad Gita to French students in Singapore. They have no clue what the Bhagavad Gita is. They have no clue who Krishna is. But when they finish hearing the work ethics principle of Bhagavad Gita, every one of them say, you know what, it makes absolute sense. And years later, people write to me, students who write to me, you don't have any faith in God. They say, just by following these principles of work and ethics and understanding your place, I have found so much satisfaction in my work. That is Krishna. They may not call him Krishna, but doesn't matter. Krishna has many names. Sometimes Krishna doesn't appear to have a name, but he is a principle, and he is non-different from devotional service. Is that helpful, Prabhu? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. You all sound very quiet. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. The sound will be set in 10 minutes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गौर Thank you very much, Prabhu, for having us over. Thank you to Mataji also. Thank you to the family. Thank you all for your time. Hare Krishna.
शरीर विद्या
Shariram
जोगे प्रियता है कान जीव फैले विषय सगोरे मध्य जीवाती लोगों मोह सुधरमती ताकि जेता कठिन संसारे कृष्ण बड़ा धोया मोह बड़ी बार जीवन साधन लभा नाम ऋतुपा श्री राधा कृष्ण गुण गा